Well, Congress is back in session, and it seems the top issue hasn't changed much in their absence. There's still a major push for Jeffrey Epstein documents transparency. The House Oversight Committee now releasing 33,000 pages of documents regarding Epstein. Several of these documents were public record and actually nothing new.
California Congressman Robert Garcia saying 97% of these documents have previously been released, and releasing this statement. The 33,000 pages of Epstein documents James Comer has decided to release were already mostly public information to the American people. Don't let this fool you.
The demand for the document transparency is bipartisan. Republican Congressman Thomas Massie and Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna are both attempting to force a House vote that would force the DOJ to release all the documents, but both of these congressmen will be holding a press conference today with 10 Epstein alleged victims.
Speaker Mike Johnson is trying to stop a discharge petition effort by Democrats and some Republicans, since he says it doesn't adequately protect the victims' personal information. Here's what Congressman Massie told reporters on Speaker Johnson's efforts.
It's an effort to keep the files from being released. And the question is, why is the Speaker of the House engaged in that? I mean, he's allegedly a social conservative from a movement Republican. And it seems to be very out of character for him to cover up for sex trafficking. Speaker Johnson is Speaker as long as Donald Trump wants him to be Speaker, and that's actually his motivation for keeping this stuff covered up, is the president wants it covered up.
And during Tuesday's hearing, there was a tense exchange between Congressman Jim McGovern and House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer.
Mr. Comer, I mean, do you support the Massie counter resolution, yes or no?
We're already doing it. No. And the discharge petition does not have the force of law. We've already subpoenaed.
You can be,
and look,
look,
Mr. McGovern, it's very disappointing that you're trying to politicize this. We're trying to get answers. We're trying to do everything that's in this discharge petition, but you're trying to politicize it.
Speaker Johnson also saying they want to uncover the truth, but make sure it never happens again. More Epstein.
Not going anywhere, Robby, despite your desire that we all move on from a massive case of sexual abuse and predatory behavior.
Moving on a little bit, the new files were very much
old
as expected to be same information over again. Even the 3% that isn't the same information is actually the same information, just presented in a slightly different way. It's incomprehensible. It's like the way the doc, you have to click through and you can't read how, it's not gonna, no eyes are gonna be opening from even trying to grapple with these documents, so this is nothing. But again, goes to say that I'm sure the average person, maybe now the MAGA influencers have finally gotten it through their head that actually there already exists thousands and thousands and thousands of pages that have been released about Epstein, and it just doesn't contain the kind of information they want, which is evidence that Bill Clinton and Barack Obama and Bill Gates and the royal family of Britain and George Soros had like a sexual tryst together or something with underage girls.
Well,
sorry, that's what they're looking for.
I mean, that is what they're looking for.
And Democrats are looking for the evidence that Donald Trump and Republicans did that, and that doesn't exist either. So.
Well, right. I mean, the point is, though, that this is a pickle that the Trump administration has got itself into by its own volition.
For sure.
One of the main catalysts being the now infamous Pam Bondi, the client list is on my desk waiting review statement. Then we were told that no client list exists. Even before that, you had people like Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, before ascending to their current lofty positions, suggesting that there was something very nefarious hidden. Now, while I don't like I'm sort of generally anti-conspiracy theory. I'm never sure that that's an appropriate label to put on the Epstein stuff generally, because this is, or was, an extremely wealthy guy, an extremely well-connected guy who is documented to have had all these dealings with very influential people of all political persuasions and none. And it seems at the very least plausible that he would use, and perhaps did use, some of those connections to get more, to avoid justice, essentially, or certainly in that previous deal that he did, to get a very lenient deal for himself. So I totally get the impulse to have more of this documentation released. The discharge petition, which is a fancy way of saying a petition that basically you just get a majority of the House to sign on to, and you can avoid certain more onerous mechanics. That seems a perfectly good thing to me to get. Of course, we want to protect the privacy of victims, but there is, I think, more to come out here, and whether it's damning or not, I think it is a very valid thing to seek its release.
Yeah, I am for any transparency measure that Massie and Kana put forward. I support it always. More transparency is good to address the questions you've just raised, so I have no problem with that. What has shifted my thinking on this subject a little bit in the last couple of weeks is it's not actually Trump saying we should move on for this. I don't need to listen to Trump. I disagree with him all the time. I hope our viewers
recognize that by now
enough that I don't take marching orders from Trump. But it's the greater scrutiny from some independent journalists like Michael Tracy, for instance, who I generally find reporting to be very solid, of the alleged victims, and some of their stories not standing up to the scrutiny he was giving them. He also walked through why the initial legal action against Epstein was more, in his view, appropriate than I thought it was. Because I, for a long time, had claimed that how this guy was allowed to come and go from the jail, and that looks very suspect to me and reflects maybe the influence he might have had. It's too complicated to go into now, but there are various reasons why, on paper, the legal case was not as solid as you might have thought it was based on everything we know now, and that might have been a perfectly the later finding that it was handled inadequately. There was a judge that found that it was handled inadequately, but then that finding was overturned by a subsequent judge. So it ends up a little bit more murky. And then again, the scrutiny of Virginia Giuffre, who accused Alan Dershowitz, and we grilled him on Rising once years ago about those accusations, and then afterwards she recanted that. So I have to take that seriously, and this is characteristic of some of the other accusers as well. In terms of the payouts they got. Look, you have people. I'm someone who came to public attention for being for scrutinizing Me Too claims and not automatically believing every wild, awful story I heard, and I think there was a little bit of that at play. Now, he did have a lot of shady connections. He had wealth from sources we don't understand. There was the insinuation of intelligence connections, particularly to Israel. The connection between Ghislaine Maxwell's father and Israel is well established, is not conspiracy theory. So all of that makes this still interesting and worth pursuing. And again, I still support any disclosures that will come out on the subject. I'm willing to believe that things have been covered up, but I'm more discerning of the claims that some alleged victims have made, is what I'm saying.
So I haven't read Michael Tracy's work on all of this, so I'm not able to debate the minutiae of that. But I mean, I do think it's worth re-emphasizing, and I don't think you're denying that Epstein was involved in predatory behavior on a massive scale and used his wealth both to facilitate that behavior and to protect himself from the consequences of it.
He was convicted on this basis, and so was Ghislaine Maxwell, and it is, I'm not saying that did not happen. No.
Sure. So therefore, given that it did happen, I think there is validity to trying to uncover more about exactly what those connections were and how they were utilized or not.
But look at someone like Sean P. Diddy Combs facing completely valid, justified accusations of abuse that are on camera, but then hundreds of other people come forward and say, "Oh yeah, it happened to me too. Where's my payday?" Like this is just something that happens in cases like this. Doesn't mean there wasn't a legitimate basis in the first place, but it means we can't just believe everything everyone says about their interactions.
No, but we give them the chance to be heard nonetheless. Anyway.
The Washington Free Beacon is reporting next up that Ilhan Omar's net worth has reached up to $30 million after she denied being a millionaire. We'll discuss. Don't go anywhere.